Database accessed. Establishing uplink.
Now, I know the second round of you agents coming up from DC arrives in a couple days, so I don't want to spoil any of what's going on here in Brooklyn, because there's still much to do. But I did want to share a couple classified missions that First Team undertook before heading to New York. You know, to get you in the mood for when you land at Coney Island. Manny Ortega received word that the True Sons had breached the Central Detention Center near downtown West. Apparently, they accessed the sewers and bust in via the laundry room. The agents followed that route, and while they were inside, some intel pointed out that the Sons may have had civilians captive in there, possibly being tortured or even experimented on. One civvy in particular, 30-year-old Erica Gonzalez, detained for planning an act of eco-terrorism. Her boyfriend Michael Lynn seems to have been the one to tip off authorities about her plotting to burn up a Christmas tree at a mall in DC. Her motive? She thought that because the tree was a hybrid that it could potentially cause harm to the local flora and fauna. Laughable, but it's also further believed she planned a very similar attack in a mall in New York. Couldn't follow through because of the amount of security around at the time. What made Erica stand out more? Well, she was an asymptomatic carrier of the dollar flu. I mean modified smallpox, variola, chimera. It's also thought she probably led to a major outbreak in the prison. Detention center, which resulted in a full lockdown/quarantine. Looks like she was placed in the psych ward to isolate her from Gen Pop before the True Sons took the place over. But it looks like the way they treated her, possibly other captives afterwards, led to some True Sons questioning their orders. Those True Sons that defected were meant to be tried and dealt with harshly via a tribunal of sorts, under the order of a Major Anders, the ranking leader there at the time. Ortega thought it beneficial to help the defectors before the punishments were carried out, as they could possibly provide some insight to the overarching situation. So the agents head to the gym to stop the executions. Realizing the agents were getting a little bit too close, Anders called for a full lockdown on cell block and sent reinforcements near Gonzalez's location. Despite those efforts, the agents were able to neutralize Sanders and disable the lockdown. For a moment, it looked like Gonzalez was in the clear, but a leftover True Sun sniper round got to her. The agents quickly eliminated the sniper and freed the rest of the prisoners. True, Erica was lost, but at least she was free from her recent misery. At 10's nightclub, on the second mission, Manny Ortega had organized a meetup with Division Agent Emily Lee, who was after a hyena boss codenamed The Chemist. From what I gather, The Chemist owned a few clubs, but was on Lee's radar for suspicions of being a spice maker, whose experimental batches were believed to be behind a number of overdoses. The Chemist was very scientific in her methods. Many of those methods were actually spray painted throughout areas of the club. She could cook up some nasty stuff that could cause runners to get aggressive enough to try to run through gunfire. Now, the Chemist wasn't known for sampling her own stuff, but something about this batch was different. So much so she couldn't help herself but try. This variant was potent, side effects extreme, making her paranoid to the point she was shooting down one of her key hyena. This spice operation was deadly. It simply needed to be shut down. When the agents infiltrated the club, they quickly found out that Agent Lee had rushed a little ahead of the rendezvous, which meant the assigned agents had to deal with the Chemist's party gliding on their own. Despite the hyena presence, the spice all over the place, the agents made do, and even mentioned that some of the lighting effects, particularly the light-up pillars, reminded them of a prior mission. Along the way, it became clear why Lee was in such a rush to get after the Chemist. She had worked as an EMT prior to her activation as an official agent of the division and had past run-ins with the Chemist. Apparently, she had been called to deal with ODs to the Chemist's club so often, she may have physically threatened her. While that would have been allowed after Lee's watch turned orange, unfortunately, under the normal rules as a first responder, it just backfired, and Lee was given some type of restrictions on her job. I could understand Lee's obsession in a way, but in the end, it cost her. True, she would have been glad to see the agents shut down the water supply to the grow house. And she wouldn't have minded how Ortega remotely used her pulse scanner to give us some eyes in the low visibility dance floor, even if Ortega was risking a system overload. She would have loved to see the agents ruin the chemist's flashy entrance as they took down the chemist along with her bodyguard, Tangerine. Lee would have to settle for us tagging her body for recovery so that she could get a proper burial. So I know our tech sent some of the K8 Jetstream flamethrower blueprints your way, but it seems like the first rounders heading to Brooklyn took all of the completed first batch. I'm not sure if you guys will have that weapon built for you before you hit Coney Island, because I know they require some pretty specific resources. But even if not, you guys got plenty of weapons to get the job done already. See you in Brooklyn and entry.